Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my very special guest, Ty Stover. Ty, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dustin.
So check this out, guys. I have said repeatedly on this show, for those that have been tuning in for the past 80 plus episodes, that we call it the Loan Officer Podcast, but this is not a show geared specifically towards mortgage professionals. It's called the Loan Officer Podcast because I am a loan officer by trade, and I feel like everyone should know a loan officer. Now, Ty is the reason why I say everyone should get to know a loan officer, because as a loan officer, we know people. We have connections. And Ty is a cool-ass dude with a really awesome story. And we're going to share today's story, or we're going to share Ty's story today on this episode, because there's going to be motivation to be pulled. We're going to entertain you as well, I promise. He's a cool dude, cool guys, tend to be funny guys, funny, makes entertaining. But what a cool story. Let me just walk you through. So currently, if you were to look him up on LinkedIn, and it's Stover, you're going to see he works at EA Sports. Okay, so that is his current role. But who is Ty Stover to me? Well, first, he's a Marine. He's a combat veteran. He is an entrepreneur, right? Used to own a bar, used to own a club, a nightclub. He's a real estate investor. He's a dad. He's a son. And yes, he currently works at EA Sports, which, by the way, let me put this in perspective. For those that don't know EA Sports, you know the game Madden. It's one of the most popular video games ever, right? Madden football. And every year, it's a big to-do on who gets on the cover. Well, who is Ty Stover to me? This is the dude that has one of the biggest says on who goes on the cover, because part of your job, and this is a dream job to people like me, you interact with celebrity athletes, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Today.
I mean, there's more to that, but yes.
To me, there's not. Okay.
It's not 365 days of interacting with celebrity athletes. Yes.
Yeah, but like, okay. Drop some names on some of the people that, you know their people, you talk to their people, you've worked with them.
Sure. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, James Harden, Connor McDavid, Conor McGregor. You know, it's the top in NFL, NBA, UFC, NHL. Yeah. Yeah.
So like your job is, I interact with those people and their people.
Yes. And depending on how much interaction I've had with those individuals, that I have a connection with them as individuals. But I professionally find more value interacting with their people. And I think that's probably something that has given me more success in this trade, that I'm not quote unquote thirsty for the interaction with said celebrity. I'm more of I find more value in being close to the individual's management and having a strong relationship there, because ultimately that's going to benefit EA and myself through the process of negotiations, logistics, and everything that comes with the hard part of that. If we do that right, then the player is going to be satisfied anyways.
All right, perfect. That's where you are today. Here's what I want to focus on, if it's okay with you, Ty.
Sure.
I want to focus on how you got there. Because let me ask you this. As an 18-year-old graduating from Mainland High School, which, by the way, Vince Carter, NBA legend, also graduated from Mainland High School. For those that are listening outside of the Southeast, Mainland High School is in Daytona Beach, Florida. But at 18, I'm imagining you never envisioned your career where it is today. You didn't sit down at 18 saying, I think I want to work for one of the world's largest video game manufacturers, and I think I want to carve out a niche in their marketing department, but not just their marketing department. I want to be the guy that negotiates deals with celebrity athletes to be featured on our video game.
Yeah, obviously. At 18, I didn't know the role. I didn't know of such role. And definitely didn't think my path was going to get there anytime soon with heading towards the military and trying to just figure out what college is. And I have like an idea of what I thought I was going to do. And it was just like a suit and a briefcase, and it was going to probably be in a larger city than Daytona, maybe Orlando. And I was going to tighten up my tie, and I was going to go work for this business and doing business stuff.
Yeah. But you chose the Marine Corps, right?
Yes.
18 years old. Really cool story. How did you go into it thinking, well, I don't know what else to do? That sounds fun. Or was it you wanted to be a career Marine? Like you thought, you know what, I'm going to make the next 25, 30 years out of this because maybe you come from a military family. What was your thought process when you chose the military out of high school versus college?
Yeah, I think it could have gone a few different directions at the time, and I was probably open-minded because I didn't have any set direction on the end slate or the end goals there. But no, my thought was my grades aren't great. My parents don't have any money saved. I do want to go to college because in my mind, an education was going to get me that business stuff job in the future. And so I had to get that done, and going to the community college in Daytona on my own dime was going to last a few semesters, and then I would end up stuck there doing something else, and that's not what I wanted to do. So as I went to the Marine Corps, you start to think, I could maybe do this for a career, but I think my mind was always 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, which I like this. I like this for any parent listening that has teenage children or anyone who is 17 to 23 years old. You went at it strategically, right? You went at it and said, wait a minute, I can go serve my country. I can go travel. I can go pick up a new skill set, right? Because I'm sure you had some form of a occupation that they trained you in. And the occupation may have been how to hold a Ma Deuce, machine gun, but nonetheless, but you knew that this was how you were going to earn a paycheck, obtain a skill set, but also through the GI Bill, have money that when you're done with your 4 years, you'll be able to go to college and have your college paid for.
Correct. Yeah, all the above. I mean, there's tuition assistance while you're in. So if you can find time between your quote-unquote 9 to 5 in the military, there's usually colleges remotely that are on base or somewhere locally in town that maybe you could go to. So that was kind of my first. I mean, right when I remember checking in after going through basic training and all the stuff leading up to my first duty station. I mean, I'm talking like first weeks. I was like, okay, like how do I go to the education center and how do I get this going?
Yeah, because you went in very strategically.
Right, and I actually I would talk to other people. I should have been getting a cut of these, but I was bringing people with me, and I'm like, you got to come get an education too. Like, what are you going to do,
Was it free? Like when you were enlisted, it was free?
Completely free. Yeah, I think I may have had to pay a little extra for some books. But yeah, it was actually at that time more free, while you're in. And then when you got out, it had a GI Bill that was paid for most of it, and that has since transitioned. They have what's called post 9/11 GI Bill, which is like essentially everything covered. So I got all the way through my master's, barely paying anything.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so when people say like, oh, well, you gave a lot for your country, I'm like, my country gave me a lot too. Like, I'm not one to raise my hand and be like, I'm a veteran over here, where's my discount? Because I feel so gracious for one, knowing what I was getting into, right? Like I joined, as you said, I was strategic in understanding that I'm going into this thing. It's not going to be fun as college, but it's going to give me a college education at the end of the day. And then, trying to go from that and understand that it's going to be cheaper, but then over time actually getting a free education for the most part, maybe a few books along the way here and there, felt like more than I ever expected to get out of it.
I love it. I mean, any young person who will actually listen to me, which most don't, right? They're looking like, oh God, you're like my dad, or maybe I could be the cool uncle to somebody.
Sure.
But I'm like, look at the military. Look at the military. I mean, you went Marine Corps. You went hardcore. Cool story behind this, and I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit, but Ty went to the Marine Corps because one of his best friends called him out right? He called out your manhood.
Yeah.
You were going to go with a different branch of the service.
Yeah.
And he called you out, and you accepted the challenge, and you said, okay, I'll be a Marine too.
Yeah, it was basically, we were going to this rope swing after school. We might have skipped some classes here. When we were going to
hence the great issue you had in high school.
I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I think we dipped out of like 6th period or 7th period, and we were going to go to this rope swing, which was something to do, I guess. And the rope swing was on this really big tree, and essentially my buddy was like, he was like doing backflips off this thing, no problem, and I'm just like shaking, climbing the thing, and he called me a few names, and he's like, and that's why you're going to go join the Army or something, that's why you're not going to join the Marines. And I was like, F you, I'm getting up there. And so I climbed to the top and I jumped off the thing. And then I think later that week, his recruiter was calling me because he had told him like, he's coming.
Yeah.
So, no, it's honestly, it was that simple.
But I love that story for you at, going back to 18. Like we know where you are, right? It's how I kicked the show off. Like we know what you get to do now.
Yep.
Which is really cool. So you do the Marine Corps, you do it for, I believe you said like 8-10 years. Right? You're still in. You're still a active reservist.
Reservist. Yep, exactly. So I did just over 8 years, almost 9 years. Actually.
What was your method of service? They call it, right? Like when you go to basic training, then you go off and you learn a skill set.
Yeah.
What was
over the course of my career, I did detainee operations and I did administration. So when I came back here,
that was your business stuff. That was put on your tie and go to the office and do business stuff.
Exactly right. And probably the best decision I made because it did structure kind of my day-to-day to be more structured and 9 to 5-ish. While I was there, versus going to the field on the weekends and doing different stuff that would have ultimately hurt my college. And I don't know if my recruiter steered me this direction because he knew where my goals were or what. But I ended up going that direction instead, and it worked out well because that the job became available here in Orlando. And otherwise wouldn't have been. So it's just kind of things of how the world works. It kind of like
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, one little passive decision you made 10 years ago starts to like make an opportunity now. And I'm sure it would have been the same if I went different direction, but it would have been in a different direction.
Yeah, your job today with EA Sports, working with all these celebrity athletes and their teams, is because EA has a huge operation in North Orlando, right?
Yeah.
In Maitland, Florida. Had you not through the Marine Corps made it back here, who's to say that you actually would have opened a bar in Orlando, opened a nightclub in Orlando, stayed in Orlando long enough to have EA find you or you find them. Yeah. But I think the big takeaway for me and what I want others to get out of this is the military is a fantastic alternative or a fantastic selection for so many of young adults because of it's a job with secure income, because it will allow you to obtain a 4-year degree, but also in your case, you said you got your master's degree utilizing some of the benefits of serving your country.
Correct.
Which I think is phenomenal. So you are no longer active full-time in the Marine Corps. I don't know what they call it.
I'm in the reserves.
You're in the reserves, okay.
Yeah.
But you was it the bar first or the nightclub first?
The bar.
The bar.
And there was, there's a lot that kind of transitioned to this. I was doing like nightclub promotions and trying to be like an event manager. I think at that point, my thought was I'm going to be like a party planner for celebrities or something one day or something. I don't know. But at the time, I was just trying to cut my teeth on some things. And so I started
because you thought that would be cool. Like it seemed like something that you liked going out, you liked doing the nightclub scene. So he was like, well, if I like doing this for fun, why shouldn't I try to work in this industry?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, I didn't necessarily think I was going to get into the venue ownership or management portion when I was in that, but it just one thing led to another, and I got connected with other promoters, and it was kind of seamless to, when another promoter who I've been working with is like, hey, I'm thinking about leasing this spot and opening a bar. Would you have any interest in that? I was like, yeah, tell me more. So, I invested in that and just kind of was a part of that, just me and him running that sort of day to day. And, over
Did
time.
you have any experience running a bar prior to that?
None at all. And I mean, outside of just seeing it, right? Seeing managers run bars and seeing good managers and bad managers just from being on the club side.
But in terms of getting a liquor license or
Yeah.
decor,
Nothing.
hiring wait staff, servers, bartenders, none of that.
None of that. And way over my head immediately. I mean, the bar industry is kind of a grind. And so, you know, it was eye-opening. And I've always had this mantra, if you will, or feeling is to like be financially prudent, but be like executionally reckless. And what I mean by that is like, I've always been one, and it's maybe been ingrained in me since I was younger and didn't have money and trying to figure out what makes sense and how to make money. But like, if you see an opportunity and you have the capital and it's something that's going to benefit you potentially long term, then just do it. Because we talked about college, and I'm gracious enough or grateful enough that my college courses were paid for, but I still got the invoices, and I could still see that this class was $1,200. You know, Western Civilization 2. I can't tell you one topic that we talked about in Western Civilization 2, but that school got paid $1,200 out of taxpayer dollars, I guess, in the means of things. But so why is it so hard for me to think if doing a club promotion is going to be $1,200, and I have the potential to lose some of that, but also learn? Why wouldn't I do that? So like, I think that like you get a lot more connected to losses than you do to wins. And
so you're speaking to my heart, and I'm going to make you repeat, because I've never heard your quote before, and it may be yours. It's an original, which is fantastic. We need to get that thing plastered all over the place like your Jim Rohn. But what was it again? Be
financially prudent and executionally reckless.
Executionally reckless. I love the word reckless. I love the word prudent. Like, yeah. I think that's fabulous. And then what you're saying is, which again, you're speaking to my heart. Why in the hell are we so okay as a society to go drop $5, $6, $7 grand on one semester of coursework at you name that college, but we're not willing to go drop $3 or $4 or $5 grand to chase a business opportunity that, worst case, we learned something and it cost us $5 grand. Best case, we learned something and we turned our $5 grand into $50 grand. More than likely, it'll be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. I saw this posted on Facebook, and I wish I could remember, because it's going to be a shout out to a mortgage professional. It's Amber Patterson, I believe is her name. Well, I know an Amber Patterson, but I'm pretty sure it's Amber that had posted this on Facebook. Okay. And I'm going to butcher it, but it correlates to what you're saying. And I think this is a massive takeaway for those that have made it this far into this episode. And her post was basically, why when someone goes out and they sign a $30,000 loan to buy a car, we applaud them. Why when someone goes out and drops 60 or 100 grand on a college education, we applaud them. Why when someone drops $250,000 on a home loan, we throw them a party and applaud them. But someone wants to go out and spend $10,000 to chase a idea that they have in order to create a career path for themselves all of a sudden. And this is typically moms and dads to their children, or, you know, it's sister to brother, best friend to best friend. Oh, I don't know. That's pretty risky.
Yeah.
That's pretty risky to drop 10 grand. And you're telling me, based on your ideas and your experiences with the bar and with the nightclub and the promotions that you did along the way, look, worst case, I was going to learn something. And for me to drop 12 grand on Western Civ 2,
right,
which I can't tell you one thing about 15 years later, or me to spend $12,000 or $1,200 on this promotion that I can tell you 3 life lessons I learned, 2 wins and 1 loss. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. We as a society have this, pardon my French, but f***ed up.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with us?
I don't know.
What is wrong with us? So the bar, you keep it. Really cool story. Is it still around, or did you guys sold it?
Yeah, so
made some money?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You know, so we kept the bar. We invested in, there was a nightclub next door to it that was having some financial troubles, and the landlord who we were leasing our spot from was basically like, hey guys, you're in the bar business, you want to be in the nightclub business? And we're like, okay, and everything was already in line there, as far as liquor license and the setup of the establishment and whatnot. And that was a more expensive venture, but we felt pretty strong about it, and we're like, yeah, we can do it. It's going to help. If we can make the nightclub happen, then we can make the bar happen even better, and we can have some crossover here, and it can work out better for us versus like kind of us versus them. And
some synergy.
Yeah.
Which in all businesses, you look for synergy.
Sure. So it felt like a no-brainer. But the expenses were tenfold on a monthly basis, and to try to keep up with that. And in a place, we were out by UCF. And college crowds are just flying by the seat of their pants, whatever just seems cool, and that's a lot to juggle. Just basically two of us and some good bartenders that were our speaking, our faces of the franchise, if you will. And so it went well for a while and good things, and it went bad and some other things and some months, and I'm like, how the hell are we gonna pay for this? And you get by, and then over time. It all happened really fast, but another opportunity for a spot happened downtown. And we're like, okay, let's just open another bar. And it was a smaller spot. It felt a lot more manageable at the time. I wanted something I could manage that felt easier. And I think in my heart, I almost wanted out as soon as possible. Just the grind was grueling on me. But again, it's one of those things where it's like you're in every one of those losses where you lose sleep and you're thinking about how could I get better, and you're doing all this stuff, you're learning a lot more than you would taking a nightclub class about management or hiring or any of this stuff. Maybe that stuff could have helped me, but you're learning more on the fly and taking L's than in the moment. So yeah, we transitioned from the bar to the bar and the nightclub to the bar and the nightclub and another bar. And then that nightclub was basically not going to work anymore, and so we basically washed our hands of that. Took a pretty fat L on that one, and kept both bars open for a little while. And then we had an opportunity to sell the one downtown that we just opened, basically like to get out of the lease in a favorable way, because there was going to be another person who was going to be a more concrete answer for them as the landlord, I guess.
Okay.
And so yeah, we got basically like, hey, we're going to essentially pay what you were going to pay this year for you to get the hell out of here. And we're like, fine. We still got this other bar. And then over time, I think, I'd say probably over the next year and a half, 2 years or something, me and my partner at the time were just like, man, I don't know. Maybe this is not us. And so I think that we did okay financially. There was definitely no like nest egg that we made out of the whole thing, but we also didn't like kill ourselves financially on the back end.
But two questions. One was, do you regret anything you did during that time period?
No, I mean, sure. If you could go back, you would change some things and maybe not even invest in the bar in the first place, right?
You maybe do it different.
Yeah.
But when you look at what you gained personally,
sure.
Whether it's in your head or in your heart,
yeah.
Is there anything about those experiences that you would trade, or are you grateful that they led you to where you are today?
100% grateful, and I think that's all bad things that have happened in that $1,200 of spending here and there and there and there, because like you said, it's just there's experiences and knowledge that you won't forget. The topics and the people and the understanding of what you're doing wrong, and when you realize that you're not good at something, that hurts, that burns you a little bit. So you either buckle down and try to get better at that, or you really get in your heart of hearts and say, am I wired for this kind of stuff? Is this where my passion's at? Is this where my happiness is going to come from? And you evaluate, and I've always been one to kind of reevaluate my situations. It's easy to do it on January 1st and try to think about things, but it doesn't need to be just in the beginning of the year. You can just have any life lesson that kind of got you there and sit down and write it out in your head or write it out on a piece of paper, and where do you want to be? Is this still the path? Like in that case, it's like, okay, is my path to get more nightclubs in downtown Orlando? And is this where do I want to be, this 45-year-old guy who sits here and tries to look cool with kids and make cool promotions? And I don't know. It started to feel a little more grimy, and a little more of a grind daily than I really wanted it to be. And I didn't see kind of structure and family life and all these things. Like, it wasn't conducive to where I wanted to be in my 30s. So
is this what led you then to, because you mentioned you were able to get your master's degree utilizing some of your GI benefits or all of your GI benefits. Was that your next progression? What was getting the master's, or did you get the master's before that?
I was getting my master's kind of in the process of all of this. So and the schoolwork at that time was easy compared to life work. So it's like, and my mindset going into schoolwork was the best it's ever been. I would say my master's program, I took every class seriously, to the point I would get ridiculed by classmates because I would have to remind them, guys, we're here to learn. Like, we're actually here to pick up this stuff. And you don't realize until you have experiences like I was going through to understand, like, if you're taking a class that's about accounting, like how to try to attribute that to something that's actually going on in your life versus just like, oh, accounting, get it done, get my B and move along.
Yeah, so now you're going to force me to hop on a soapbox, which I know some of the purpose of this platform is so I can get on my soapbox, right? Maybe some people want to hear what I have to say and be like, yes. Some people want to hear what I want to say and say, you're a dumbass. That's okay too. But I have found that someone obtaining their master's, their MBA, right after they have graduated with their undergraduate, makes no sense to me. Makes zero sense there. I know there are some professions, right, that yes, you just have to go straight through.
Yeah.
But for those people in the business world especially, no, go get some world experience. Go get some life experience. Get out there, get dirty, get some bruises, some scrapes, some scars, get some experience.
Yeah.
Then go back. It could be just 2 years later. It could be 6 years later. But go back. That way you're in a different mindset. I mean, it's no different than I'm talking to my 15-year-old right now who, he's a sophomore in high school and he wants to take these AP courses and he wants to take these dual enrollment courses, which... Look, I'm all for.
Yeah.
I really am if we're doing it for the right reason. As a parent, I tell him the right reason is GPA. He's like, yeah, but Dad, I'm getting these college credits. And I'm like, look, more than likely, the school you go to isn't going to give you a 1-for-1 on those credits. And secondly, you're learning this with a 15-year-old brain. Some of the subject matter is better off with a 21-year-old brain.
Yeah.
Right? You with your master's, it's like, no. The guy getting his master's, which by the way, what is your master's degree in?
Entertainment business.
Entertainment business.
Yeah.
Is someone who had life experience, right? 8 years in the Marine Corps, had been deployed to Iraq, had lived in places like Michigan or Hawaii, had built nightclubs, had to go through liquor license. You knew what it was to do payroll. Before you took that accounting class.
Yeah.
Like, it's so paramount, in my opinion. If you can do it, it makes more sense to go out and get your master's way after the fact, meaning put a gap in between the bachelor degree and the master's degree. So you lived it.
Yeah.
I preach it.
It's an interesting take, though, because I can understand why you would want to keep it rolling, so to speak, because you step away from coursework. It's tough to write a paper again when you get back in there, especially at a master's level. So when your mind's out of it and you're going back in, it's harder, but I think you're right. I think you come into it with a better mindset of why you're there in the first place.
Yeah, it's the stickiness factor.
Yeah.
The concepts being taught are stickier when you can correlate them to life experience. That's why if you're an undergrad, intern. As many internships as you can get. At a minimum, they're going to teach you what you don't want to do for a living. At a minimum. And they still look good on your resume. But yeah, you have to be able to correlate your coursework with reality, but you can only do so if you're exposing yourself to real situations.
No, I agree. I was in this architecture academy in high school, and I was going to be an architect. And there was no doubt about it, I was going to be an architect. And over time, I realized I don't really like math. And then
And you can't draw.
Well, yeah, that too. And but I was grinding away and I was doing my thing, and we got to go shadow some architecture firms, and I was blown away at how boring this life is, and the mindset. They try to, this is the architecture firm and this is cool and blah blah blah, but you get down to talking to like one individual, And they would be like, yeah, I'm just working on the window frames of this one building over and over again, basically, like how to make those fit within a larger commercial product. And at the time, and you're in high school and you're dumb and you don't understand any better, and you're a 15-year-old sophomore. You're thinking, I'm going to build these designer multi-million-dollar homes right out of the gate, and people are going to pay me so much money, and it's going to be awesome. And meanwhile, a shadowless guy takes us to lunch. It's kind of like an extended cab, 1995 S10, and I'm like, this guy's an architect?
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, man, I'm going the wrong direction. It's not, the truck was fine, but I was like, God, this guy's supposed to be in a Lamborghini, I think. I don't know where he maybe didn't bring it in today. He's got some yard work to do after this. I don't know, but it was kind of a shock to me, and I was like, why am I... it dinged in something in my head. It was like, I'm chasing something that I don't even know that I like. I'm chasing it for finances. And this guy's driving an S10 and making windows. And I'm like, shit, this isn't me either.
No, not for me. No, thank you.
And then over time, the grades kind of kicked me out of engineering school or architecture anyways. But it just wasn't, it was like, wow, okay. The mindset and, so what you're saying is true in a lot where you have the opportunity to intern or sit in or just pick someone's brain, do it because they might say something and be like, oh, like their whole idea of what it is might change.
Yeah, no, that is the best advice we can give to anybody who is either raising children or is listening because they are 17, 19, 23 years old and they're at that point in their life. I mean, I remember, you just don't know, right? You're young, you don't know. Right. You're not worldly, you're not exposed. You haven't been in the room where it happens because you haven't been invited yet.
Yeah.
And someone says, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I like people and I like to talk. Okay, I'll get a communications degree.
Sure.
And then I'll go into human resources. What does human resources do? I have no idea, but it has the word human in it. So I think I'm going to work with people, and I like people, and people like me.
Yeah.
And then I went and I job shadowed. I was a senior in high school, an HR manager at a local employer who they employ thousands of employees. Mm-hmm. And she was so excited to have me in there. She was so excited to show me around and to answer all of my questions. And I left there, and probably like you, I was like, yeah, that's not what I envisioned myself doing.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. I fast forward 20 plus years from that moment. Here, when I go to the office at Waterstone Mortgage, one of my main roles is to work side by side with my HR department. So it's funny how things do come full circle in life.
Yeah.
And I embrace my role and I love what I do and I try hard to be really good at it.
Yeah.
But I came about that role through a much larger career progression, right? Because I ended up as a loan officer. It wasn't until I went from loan officer to sales manager to branch manager to regional VP that along the way I was bestowed more responsibility. And by bestowed, I looked around. I'm like, shit, this is not going to get done, is it? I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to be the one who figures this one out. And then, things just from there progress. And next thing you know it, you have 90 plus associates and all of the hiring, firing, raises, reviews run through your desk. Whether you do them or not, I do. I'm a part of that. So I guess I am in HR, but it was the 18-year-old me who got to go shadow one time to say, hey, I don't want to start my career on that path.
Yep.
So let me get into this as we start to wrap up the show. You're at EA today, and you've been at EA Sports for how long?
About going on 8 years.
And you landed that gig after you completed your master's degree in sports entertainment, correct? Or in entertainment business management. Okay.
Yep.
What is your day-to-day like? Because it's very intriguing. Like I mean, look, I'm not even a video game person. Like, I'm a sports nut.
Yeah.
But as a sports nut and as a non-video game person, I at least know the cool factor.
Sure.
Of, being on whether it's a PGA or NBA Live or Madden. Like every year it's a big media hoopla, like who's going to be on the cover. Mm-hmm. That's part of what you do. But just kind of walk me through what is your day-to-day like? What do you love most about your job? And if someone was interested in doing something similar, what one or two recommendations would you have for them?
So day-to-day changes. I mean, I consider myself almost like a mercenary of sorts for EA right now because I would say a lot of people in our industry are connected to individual franchises, as in I'm a product manager for Madden NFL football, or I do campaign management for UFC, or whatever it may be. I kind of float in between all these. So my day-to-day is essentially trying to connect with those campaign leads on a weekly basis, figure out what's coming and what do they have needs for me throughout that. So, the cover athletes is the most traditional, easiest to pinpoint. So when a cover athlete's coming along, we put together a lot of different ideas of why this person is going to be the face of our franchise. They're going to personify our brand for that year. And why is that? Is it something that's a product innovation in the game? And if that's in the running game, call it in Madden, do we need to go get a running back instead of a quarterback? And how is that person going to tell a story or tell a narrative later down the line? Or could we sign a quarterback because there's nothing that's pointing towards a running back or whatever it may be. But also you got to look at on-field, obviously, performances. The last few years, we've essentially just picked the MVP of the league and gone from there. And it's been a pretty no-brainer. You think like Lamar Jackson last year as the MVP and then Patrick Mahomes the year before that. And
well, and both guys also were younger in their careers,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
probably speaks to your audience a little bit better.
Totally. So you got these young, big names that are doing amazing things that are different. So it was like I said, it was kind of a no-brainer. We all walked in the room and saw the same thing. It was done. But another franchise is a little different, and it's you think about the UFC, for instance. UFC for us is an annual title, so you have to think long term of basically who's a champion now or on the cusp of being a champion and what their schedule looks like moving forward and kind of what that peak could be.
I bet UFC is hard because you don't stay on top long in the UFC.
It's very hard. And I would say that over 50% of our cover athletes lost their next fight or something like that. Yeah, that's the fight game though, and I think that's forgiven in a way as long as we announce why they're still meaningful, and then we just kind of ride it out. But you also want to align with individuals that on the UFC side that are going to have long lead or have they haven't maybe reached a peak yet, but they're on their way. So you have more of a long burn on that. But every franchise is a little different. But going back to day to day, it's a lot of meetings now, Zoom, meetings, and just seeing where I'm needed. And outside of the cover athlete stuff is just kind of the executional stuff. So if we have a campaign for the NFL Pro Bowl that's now going to be played on Madden because of COVID this year, how do we get individuals to play Madden, for that? So we've hired NFL players to do that, and then there's going to be like a social campaign that goes around to promote that they need athletes to post to social. So those are the kind of triggers that I have to then pull and say, if we want this much coverage, what's your budget? How many do we want? These guys make sense for me. Do they make sense? They align with what you're doing? Is the NFL approving of these individuals? Because we're a licensed product, so everything's got to go.
So let me get this right, because now I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
Okay, so you essentially, and we're going to use Madden in this example.
Sure.
Madden says, hey, we need to increase the amount of users that how many people are playing Madden. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, well, obviously we'll get a spike when we announce the cover of who's going to be on the cover. It's always a big deal. But you guys are taking it one step further. You're like, look, we need to get some of these players actually playing. So your job is to then take the budget that's given to you by the people higher up at EA, and whether it's $10 or $10 million, figure out how can you get the most bang for your buck. So you reach out to Von Miller's camp, or you reach out to James Robinson, who came on the scene for the Jacksonville Jaguars out of nowhere. And so you're like, well, maybe because he was undrafted, rookie free agent, I can get some good bang in Jacksonville for less money than maybe what it would cost Von Miller, who's been in the league, defensive player of the year. Like, you get to help make those decisions.
Sure.
And then you have to reach out to the people's camps and facilitate it.
Yeah, exactly. And we can talk about that, the logistics of that forever. And Jacksonville doesn't get enough love. I'm a Jags fan, so.
Well, I think you should put Blake Bortles on Madden, but put him in a UCF jersey number 5.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I have any say, that would be my vote.
There's a reason you don't have say.
Shout out to the boat, Blake Bortles, hometown hero.
Gotta love him. So I think it's, like I said, there's basically the big traditional day-to-day thing. So if you want to use a cover athlete, for instance, we're talking about that for months, and we're kind of dwindling our list to who makes the most sense. And then we start to pick why that makes the most sense, and then everybody's got to handhold and say, this is the guy. And there's always going to be someone like, oh, I think it should be Blake Bortles, and you're like, no. And then we get there, and essentially reach out, and we start talking about numbers and services and how we're going to execute those, and when we're going to execute, and what the ground rules are. And in a traditional standpoint, I would try to meet with these individuals in person and talk them through what this game is and why that's going to be awesome for them. And it's amazing that we're paying you. You should probably be paying us for how awesome this opportunity is going to be for you. And then there's the executing of that, where we do photo shoots and video shoots and commercials and advertising stuff, and getting those people to and from where they're going, and working that in between their training schedules and their camps and seasons sometimes, which I try to avoid. But figuring out that, I know that NFL players have Tuesday off traditionally, or that some teams don't know their schedules until Monday morning or whatever, and you just work through those logistics, and then you got to get flights, and you got to figure out if dietary restrictions, if they're only eating salmon and salad right now, then that better be there. And then how many people come with them? Is there, what's kind of their entourage, and how can I restrict that, and what's their level of whatever their services are. Athletes aren't as bad as musicians or actors with their writers or any all blue M&Ms or none of that shit. We don't there's not a lot of that, but we want to make sure that it's very seamless and they have this kind of a really good experience when they're working with a company like EA.
Entourage. So this word, you and I were talking off camera, and we don't unfortunately have an endless time. I wish we did.
Yeah.
You have to get back to work. I have to get back to work. But you mentioned entourage twice. In our pre-interview.
Yeah.
One was you and I were talking about the entourage that comes with some of these celebrity athletes.
Sure.
Because I thought an angle that maybe we would take is, there's a history of celebrities mismanaging their money. You and I talked off camera, like, you know what, that probably wouldn't be good content for this particular show. Maybe we can come back and recreate a show where we really dive deep into what you've been able to witness in your career field. But the one thing that you said about entourage that I really wanted to hit on was, athletes don't really mismanage their money the way they used to, but they do allow their entourage to pool money. Yeah. That's something you have to deal with. You have to deal with not just getting the celebrity athlete here, but then how many people are they bringing with them, and what is that going to do? Is that going to pull the athlete away from the focus that you need them to do? But no, the show Entourage. That's what I really wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
What was it about the show Entourage that had the biggest impact on you and your career?
I would just say, I've loved Entourage. I loved how fast the episodes were and how fun they were. But what grabbed me about Entourage was this group of dudes, and E is
Eric or E. Yeah.
He became, without any real college education or background training or internships or shadows, became a manager for one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. And you can kind of see that trials and tribulation. And I found myself connecting with him spiritually in that idea of this guy's just grinding. He found himself in the world of entertainment, and I can too. Why can't I figure out how to be a manager? And Hollywood was never really my thought, but maybe that's music, or maybe that's athletes, or maybe that's something. But I've always had that idea, for some reason, connected with E as an individual, and I think it did. It kind of gave me some inspiration as a career path as a result.
And I wanted to bring that up because I think it's extremely endearing, but I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that anyone can be sitting at home, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, or HBO, and see something and say, why not me? Because I don't think enough people do that. I don't think enough folks, especially younger folks, but even people who's 40. Mm-hmm. If you're 40 and you're not doing what you want to do, ask yourself, why not me? There's no reason. If there's a will, there truly is a way. Ty watched Entourage. He looked at E. Thank God it wasn't Turtle, right?
Yeah.
But it was E. You're like, if he can do it, a fictional character, so can I.
Yeah.
And you're doing it.
Yeah.
So you're fast forward, club scene's behind you. You're dialed in. You're the man at EA. By the way, plug for a show that we did months ago, almost a year ago. We had a gentleman on by the name of Louis Valsaint. Louis is a super cool dude, because we only have super cool people on here, for one. But he taught us a term called Intrapreneurship. Now, you've done both. You're an entrepreneur, with the bar business and the club business and the promotion business. But what people don't know is you didn't just slide into your current role at EA, right? You were an intrapreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who works for a larger organization, but helps create value for themselves, which then makes them super attainable for the organization, right? And you did that. I mean, your current role, correct me if I'm wrong, you were not hired to do that.
Correct. Yeah. And again, I think as a business, the role needed to exist, right? But yeah, to your point, it's entrepreneurial in the sense I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, right? And I've always almost been against the idea of working for the man or a corporation, but EA has given me everything I've wanted over time because I've been one to try to elevate what is important or where I think this business could be better. And at the time, there wasn't any. When I got hired, I was doing product management, and there wasn't an athlete relations or a talent relations specific role. It had been there before, and it had gone away, and now is being almost say mismanaged because everybody who handled it only handled it in a bubble and had no sharing of what worked and what didn't, or no learnings for long term, or how can we make this process better, because it wasn't a process to them, it was an afterthought. It was what they had to do. They have to book a flight for this guy and get him to this thing.
And oh shit, he needs salmon. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And it's
right. They're not asking those questions. So as a result, this individual who's a top athlete shows up to his thing, and he's got maybe the wrong color shorts for the shoot. This like real story. Like these are the things that have happened. So like the uniform's wrong, or he wanted this thing, or he's like surprised we don't have any food, or whatever it is. And yeah, so just over time of me just like beating my chest and saying like, this is where I see myself, whether at EA or otherwise. And I was completely comfortable for it to be otherwise. But I knew where I wanted to go, and either I was going to make that happen for EA and be beneficial there, or I was going to do it somewhere else.
Yeah, but you created value for yourself, but also for the organization.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, all you got to do is get in. You got in, and you were never afraid to say, not my job.
Yeah.
Right? You were like, no. Look, I will do that. You need someone to book flights? I'll book flights. You need someone to book Ubers or taxis to get people from the airport and back? If I need to, I'll hop in my own car and go pick someone up.
Yep.
Have you ever done that, by the way? Have you ever had to drive to the airport to pick up one of the celebrity athletes?
I've had to pick up. Well, I've basically made a decision that I'm going to use my rental car on the road to go pick up somebody because it's going to be easier to book. And,
okay.
But like if my rental car is suitable, as in if I have like a Suburban or something that feels like something that they would feel comfortable with, then let's just make that decision and save EA $3,000 for this round trip that doesn't really need to happen. And that way I can be in the car, I can be talking to the manager, I already know it's seamless, and then I can start actually talking about what we're going to be doing today on the way. So there's been very few instances of that. We try to keep it pretty buttoned up. But yeah, when it makes sense and it's going to save the company money, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it's fantastic that you carved out your own role.
Yeah.
It's very much why people become loan officers, right? It's an entrepreneur who gets to go work for a larger organization, right? So you end up becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But you're 100% commissioned. It's your book of business. Yeah, you did the same thing. You said, yeah, I've always had, this is your words, I've always had an entrepreneurial outlook. But you found a way to scratch that itch inside of a national, worldwide corporation. Parting shots. You're a dad now, right?
Yeah.
Two kids?
Two kids.
Two kids. Yeah. How old?
One turns 3 tomorrow. And then I got almost 1-year-old.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So you're going to raise these children with everything that your parents gave you, as well as everything they didn't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Some of that's going to be monetary. That's okay. Easy to do. How about life lessons? What are some things that you're going to make sure your 2 children are taught throughout their adolescence into early adulthood that you wished were taught to you? Right. This is everything that should have been taught to you in high school, but wasn't.
Yeah.
But it should.
I mean, I think just financial management in general is something I probably wasn't taught at all much growing up. Something I had to look for and seek through experiences. But I think more importantly, as a parent, I find it important to let your kids fail in a lot of ways and let them feel that failure. I think we're so uptight that we have to produce this perfect picture of our family and look at our Christmas photos and look how great we are, and we're all smiling all the time. and we're also afraid to let our kids fail. So we put them in a appropriate, if it's sports, we don't, maybe if they're not travel team, right, we keep them over here, right? Or we want to keep them out of AP classes because maybe we think that's going to hurt them. Or but on the flip side of that, we can also inform them of why we think a certain way from our own experiences. But I think it's important to let your kids fall a little bit, don't scar, but maybe bruise, and understand that things are hard and you need to work for certain things. And even if I have the financial means, I'm not teaching you anything, but just giving you money and letting you figure it out. So, I don't think there's any one life lesson. I think it's just imperative to let them understand that failure is real and you're going to have a lot of it throughout your life, and to be responsible with your money and try to just learn, if it's just grocery store math and savings, how can you do that at an early age so that, if you're trying to save up for a new skateboard, how can I carve off $2 of my weekly allowance and not get a candy bar? And how can that attribute to $50 after how can it make something? I don't have a clear definition. Like I said, 3 and 1, I'm just high level, but yeah.
Yeah, but what I got from that, it's a race to failure. Who can fail the most, the quickest?
Yeah.
If you're not afraid of failure,
yeah,
and you attack failure as a objective, I want to get out there and fail. Mm-hmm. You will be bruised. You will be scarred. I like scars. Yeah. I think scars are cool. I think chicks dig scars. But I think scars also are reminders of what we learned. It's a reminder of a life lessons. Yeah. The problem with humanities 2.0, it didn't scar you.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't learn enough. You dropped $3,000 on a college course or a semester that gave you no scars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
so
right.
that to me is like, damn, that's pretty in your face. It's a race to failure. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Ty, thank you so much for your time. I'm Dio. He's Ty Stover. You've tuned in the Loan Officer Podcast. If people want to get a hold of you, is LinkedIn your preferred method for someone to find you, to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Ty_Stover.
Ty_Stover. Cool story. We could talk for days. We didn't even get into your real estate investment. We didn't even get into you not using your VA benefits to buy your primary home, or your family, your father. So many life lessons that you have learned along the way that I think others, just by tuning in, can. I hope this is what they got from this: is wow, he's just like me. I'm normal, right? Or wow, if he can do it, so can I. There's nothing special about him.
That's true,
right? Like, that was the purpose of having you on. I appreciate you taking the time to share your story. Again, Ty_Stover on all of your normal IGs, Facebook, Ty Stover on Facebook, Instagram. Yep. I'm Dio. This is the Loan Officer Podcast. This is all the time we have. Thank you very much. We got to go.